We now turn to the concept of an embedded sentence. An embedded sentence is a sentence that is placed inside of a larger sentence. Here we have some examples of ASL embedded sentences. First, we have this. Notice that there are basically two full sentences here. You gave me a book, and I read a book. But the sentences are combined together, with one sentence, the book that you gave me, being the topic, and then the other sentence being the main sentence. I read it. Secondly, we have this example. In that sentence, the topic is, he will give me the money. But the main sentence is, I know that he will give me the money. Here we have another, introduced with a rhetorical question. I want you to leave. And then finally we have an embedded sentence that's a question sentence embedded inside of another sentence that's affirmative. I wonder who that man is. But how do we get to these structures? How do we decide what to put where? Well, if you think of embedded sentences as objects within a main sentence, it turns out that it's helpful, because objects can be left where they are in regular sentences, or objects can be topicalized and moved to the beginning of a sentence. So if you see sentences like Amber thinks that Mike should leave, then you have the option of leaving that sentence in a very similar format to what you have, with the subject, a verb, Amber thinks, and then Mike should leave, or of moving the object to the front as a topic. The same with John said that Mary is smart. You could leave the object in the end, or you can move it to the front. The last sentence, Octolanda lost the money that you lent me, gets a little more complicated, because the money that you lent me really requires a topic anyway. And because of that, we're going to need to put that in the topic. So we don't actually have a choice of where to put the object in the last sentence because there's already a topic required. So the last sentence, we're going to have to move that object to the front, which means, since the object is a whole sentence, we're going to have to move that whole sentence to the front. Nonetheless, thinking of embedded sentences in terms of subject, verb, object is very helpful for knowing what you should sign. We'll return to these in just a minute, and I'll show you some examples of how they could be signed. So if you're looking for some rules to think about, then perhaps these would be helpful. An embedded sentence can be left where it is in the sentence, just like an object can be left where it is at the end of the sentence, provided that it's not known to the listener. If the information in the embedded sentence is what you're trying to say, then it makes sense to leave the embedded sentence at the end. This is going to make a sentence that looks very much like an English sentence, and that's okay. The embedded sentence could also be brought to the front as a topic if the embedded sentence includes information that's already known to the listener. That is, if I'm going to tell you that I am happy that you came, you already know that you came to the meeting or whatever I'm happy about. So therefore I would probably say you came as a topic because it's known to you. And then I'd tell you what you didn't know, which is that I'm happy about it. So you can move that embedded sentence to the beginning, provided that it has information that's already known to the person you're talking to. And then finally, the embedded sentence could be introduced by a rhetorical question. This is especially true if you're going to emphasize whatever that part of the embedded sentence is. Remember, rhetorical questions give the most emphatic information because they move all that information to the very end of the sentence, which is the place of emphasis in ASL. So going back to the sentences that we have here, Amber thinks that Mike should leave. We have some options. We could leave it in subject, verb, object, word order, in which case you would have something like this. But remember, even that embedded sentence, Mike should leave, could have things moved around in it. That sign should, that auxiliary verb, could be moved to the end. So you could have a sentence that's not quite like the English sentence that would look like this. Again, the next example, John said that Mary is smart. You could leave that just the way that it is, especially if that Mary is smart is what you're trying to emphasize. Alternatively, with the first two sentences, you could make the object a topic. So if the object is already known to the person you're talking to, you could move that to the beginning of the sentence. And then you would have something like, in the second sentence, the last sentence affords a little bit less flexibility, and that is because the money that you lent me is a sentence itself that is going to become the topic of the sentence of what Octolanda lost. Because it's not that Octolanda lost, you lent me money, but it's money that she lost. And because money is what she lost, what we want to do is we want to put information behind the money. So we want to make that sentence an object, the money that you lent me, and then say that Octolanda lost it. And so that sentence would go something like this. Again, so remember, you have these three options when considering what to do with an embedded sentence. Leave it where it is, move it to the front as a topic, or introduce it as a rhetorical question. So I have that last option of introducing any of these embedded sentences as rhetorical questions. And that would look something like this. Remember, when you use rhetorical questions to introduce these embedded objects, or these embedded sentences, that makes the sentence very emphatic. So you should use those rhetorical questions very sparingly.